Hi guys, it's Waide Rohain and Dancing Rabbit with your Saturday spot on Pagan Perspective, and this week we're going to be talking about personal spiritual paths.
Be ye lamps unto yourselves, be your own confidence. Hold to the truth within yourself as to the only lamp.
Thanks, Wade. And talking about personal spiritual paths, I'm a Unitarian Universalist pagan. Now, what first attracted me to Unitarian Universalism wasn't its tolerance or diversity or even its commitment to social justice, but rather the phrase that I heard over and over from Unitarian Universalists: the journey is more important than the destination. Life is a journey. It's like Forrest Gump's box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get, at least until you try it. As a Unitarian Universalist, I believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, in a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, in the right of conscience and the use of democratic processes, and the respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. The small Unitarian Universalist pagan group that my wife and I lead is not a coven in the traditional sense. The members are not bound by an oath, but rather by the simple promise to walk together in ways that seem good to us. We don't follow the ordains, but rather a behavioral covenant which we ourselves have written and have agreed to. My wife and I don't serve as the high priestess and high priest, but rather as co-facilitators. We are not authoritarian, but rather we arrive at decisions by group consensus. My living tradition draws from several sources, primarily from Wicca, from Taoism, from humanism, and from the fairy tradition. So let me briefly talk about each one of them in turn. From Wicca, I get the idea of immanent deity, the idea that the gods are not out there somewhere outside the universe, but they are here, in nature, in you, in me, in the rocks and the trees, and the sun and the moon. They are as near as our breath. The Wheel of the Year is my central myth. I celebrate this myth through ritual within a quartered circle. I celebrate the 8 Sabbaths, which are the solar and the agricultural year. Personally, I am pledged to the deities Caradwen and Cernunnos. I work magic, not in place of direct action, but to augment and make the direct action work a little bit better. From Taoism, I get the idea of the Tao, which, if it's told, is not the true Tao, which must be experienced. The idea that the best, like water, seeks out the low places, and so is like the Tao. The idea of being able to lead without seeming to lead, to achieve results without striving and attempting to produce results. From humanism, I get my commitment to social justice, to ethical action. I firmly believe that if we pagans are content to just tell our myths and do our rituals, that we will choke on them. My reverence for the goddess compels me to act to heal the earth. My reverence for the horned god compels me to work for social justice for those who are oppressed. Now, I'm not saying I'm some kind of big activist. All I'm saying is that I look for opportunity. There are a lot of forms of Wicca that use the word fairy, but the fairy tradition was started by Cora and Victor Anderson. It's a form of neo-pagan ecstatic witchcraft, which is really not a form of Wicca. About the third book on paganism that I read was The Spiral Dance by Starhawk, and it wasn't until years afterward that I realized that several of the things that really resonated with me she had borrowed from the fairy tradition. So that's my connection to that tradition. And rather than talk about the many things in fairy tradition that I don't find useful, let me talk about one of the things that I do find useful. Fairy teaches that humans have three souls. Starhawk calls them three selves, and I like that terminology a little better because I'm not entirely sure what a soul is. In fairy, there is the talker. Starhawk calls this the talking self. That's the linear, verbal, conscious mind, that chattering away in your head all the time. There is the fetch, or what Starhawk calls the younger self. This is that pre-verbal self that you were when you were a small child, before you learned language. You experienced the world directly through your senses. And there is what fairy calls the God self, or in Starhawk's words, the higher or deeper self. This is the part of the sacred, the divine within us. This is our contact to the divine outside us. Now, fairy teaches that our talking self is not able to directly relate to the God self. Has to go through the fetch. And in ritual, we're able to still that talking self, that chattering away in our head, and let the younger self, the childlike self, come out and play. And that is how we contact the divine.
Thanks, Dancing Rabbit. Hello everyone, my name's Waide and I'm your substitute for Saturdays. I'm an eclectic Wiccan, solitary eclectic Wiccan. I've been practicing for 6 years now, and I was originally introduced to it by my friend Leanne, who mentioned it in a maths lesson when I was threatening, well, I wasn't threatening, but she had an ant in a cookie box, and I don't know, somehow we got talking about Wicca. Well, anyway, yeah, I've been practicing for 6 years. I call myself eclectic Wiccan because although I do have some traditional values, I like to say I'm eclectic because I'm always evolving and trying new things, and my mind is always changing. I believe in reincarnation, I believe in karma, I believe in the duality of a god and a goddess, but I see it like a bit like the yin and yang symbol, like it's a circle, but two parts make that circle, so their energies both make the deity, but they are the god and the goddess, if you get what I mean. I believe in magic and or energy. I do practice witchcraft. The only thing I really disagree with in Wicca is the whole idea of the coven hierarchy. I don't believe in the use of, well, I don't favourite in the use of a high priestess and a high priest, simply because I think that Wicca stands for equality, and I don't think that really expresses equality in the way I think of it in Wiccan culture. I also, when I create a coven, it won't be any more than probably 4 members, because I like the idea that a coven will be of a group of witches who are really bonded and friends together and really close, and I think that will allow spell work and things like that to be that more powerful, because you have that intent and that friendship between the 4 of you. I think with a bigger coven that can become quite an issue, especially when you're meant to have a belief and an intent in a spell and you're doing it for the people. Sometimes I just feel like it's a bit pointless with the other people being there if you don't know them that well. On the subject of Wicca being a new religion, I think that's an important point to make, and not to defend from. I think that people should put that forward and say that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think you should always be evolving with religion, and I like the fact that Wicca is a modern take on the old ideas, because by evolving and keeping an open mind, you will be sure that you're not living a lie. We always need to evolve. We can't be close-minded, because you need to learn things about yourself. I mean, Wicca is, at the moment, is very current and very relevant, but who's to say in, say, 50 years' time that someone comes along and says it's just a load of crap? I'm not saying it is, but you know what I mean. There's like, you just need to keep current, and that's what I mean. You need to be open-minded. I think Wicca is a modern representation of what things worked and how they came together. I enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to see what you think, and if you can, leave a video response, because I'm really interested in what you lot think. Okay then, blessed be, and I hope you have a brilliant inbox next week, because we won't see you until afterwards, and I hope to see you on the Saturday spot next week on Pagan Perspective. Blessed be.